Hello everyone, welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sport, and today we're going to be doing 5 things learned from the match between the British and Irish Lions and the Sigma Lions. Basically just a couple of takeaways, things to watch out for, and things to sort of start thinking about ahead of the test match series, which starts in just over 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks time. But yeah, so just looking at a couple of things that we learned from the weekend, things that we need to watch out for against the Sharks on Wednesday. The team has been announced. We'll have our official preview up later, but in the meantime, you can go and check out the team on our social media works on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We've got the team all posted there. Both the Lions team as well as the Sharks team have both been announced. For the Springboks, they will be announcing their team tomorrow. If you want to go and follow that, so we'll have that up for tomorrow when it gets announced. But yeah, in terms of today, just basically looking at a couple of things we want to look at. Please do smash like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. We will obviously be live for this game on Wednesday. We are live for every single game in the British and Irish Lions series. We'll also be live tomorrow night for an official fan forum preview. We'll be joined by Lacanya tomorrow. And then we've got a lot of watch-alongs lined up for this weekend. We're hoping to do France versus Australia on Wednesday, as well as the British and Irish Lions versus the Sharks on Wednesday night. We're looking to do the Curry Cup game between the Cheetahs and the Pumas, I think, on Friday, as well as the Springboks versus Georgia. We will then be live for New Zealand versus Fiji on Saturday morning, as well as the Lions versus the Bulls on Saturday evening. That's everything we've got planned right now. We're still trying to look and see if we can squeeze a couple of extra ones in. So smash like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn your notifications on so that you get a little notification to say that we go live. You can also join the Forever Sports Members Club, link down in the description there where it says join. But yeah, before we sort of continue, I just want to say thank you everybody who's been tuning in and showing us support so far. It's been a really, really good start to the tour, and hopefully we can keep up the momentum. Without any further ado, let's look at number 1 of the 5 things we learned from this weekend. So something that I thought was quite interesting was the high intensity that the British and Irish Lions were playing at. And, you know, it was a bit different to when they played against Japan, because Japan are known for that sort of high intensity. But, you know, I think that the British and Irish Lions, being a team full of test players who have played a full test window, they played a full domestic season, these players are in phenomenal condition. They've been doing altitude training as well, apparently. And I think what we saw is that they pretty much ran the Lions off their feet, which is no mean feat, considering that these players play at altitude every week. But, you know, I think with the physicality, the speed of the game, how quickly they were getting the lineouts done, stuff like that, that's something Ivan Fanoni even said. He said, they don't run particularly much faster. The lineouts aren't, they're so much better. But he says, their ability to be able to get into the position, to have the line, to be able to take their set pieces, that's what was very impressive. There was just no sort of, it was relentless. As soon as they get a penalty, they kick straight to the line, set up a lineout, and they go. And I think that is, whilst I think it is a characteristic of Test match rugby, I think that's something that was quite unique with the British and Irish Lions. I think they're coming here to try and say, well, you know what, we know we're going to struggle to front it against the Springboks, but, if we can try and run them off their feet, we probably back ourselves to be fitter and to be in better condition. They have played, full Six Nations, that's 5 tests, they played test matches at the end of last year, and they're now going to have 5 matches ahead of the Springboks 3-match test series. The Springboks only had 2 matches against Georgia. So in terms of getting at match fitness, the Boks might be lacking a little bit of match fitness. Obviously, a couple of them will play in the SAA game, but it's such a big Springbok squad that a lot of the bulk of the Test team won't play in the SAA game. So I think that's probably an area that Warren Gatland is reckoning. You know what? If we can try and just play a very high intensity game and try and see if we can, run the Springboks off their feet, that will probably give them their best chance of actually getting a result. So one thing which I thought was very impressive this weekend was the stand-up performance by Vincent TSHITUKA by the Lions. Him and probably Frankie Horn were probably the only players who could really sort of walk off that pitch saying, you know what, we actually couldn't do much more. We really played well. I thought Vincent TSHITUKA was absolutely brilliant. He made a lot of tackles. He made plenty of carries, scored a very nice try. He was absolutely relentless. He's been one of the shining lights in the Lions for a few years now. He's a very experienced player despite being just 22 years old. And I think that if there were to be an injury or two in that Bok camp, he's got to be one of the first names that will be drafted in. I think it's for him, it's a matter of time of when and not if he'll actually play for the Springboks. He's such a big physical player, very good ball carrier, very good on the defense. He's a relentless hard worker, and he just screams Springbok quality. I think everybody could probably agree on that. So one of the main things about these sort of these games before the Springboks, these 5 sort of trial sort of matches in many ways are auditions to be in that test team side. Whilst the first thing is to get picked for the Lions and to play well here, every single one of that 36, 37-man squad in that British and Irish Lions wants to try and be in that test side. That's where the big prestige is, to be a British and Irish Lions test player. And I think that, 2 players who, for me, have probably got the early run in at the moment is Hamish Watson and Josh Adams. I mean, Josh Adams scoring 5 tries in his first 2 games. I mean, you've got to think that he's probably on the team sheet there. And I thought that Hamish Watson put in a tough performance on Saturday that you can't drop. You know, Curry will get a chance this week to try and sort of say, well, you know what, don't put all your money on Hamish Watson. But I think on the back of what was a sublime Six Nations, he's now coming and putting a man of the match performance for the British and Irish Lions. So he's got to be at this stage probably penciled in that number 7 jumper for the Test series. So whilst they did run at 56 points and scoring 8 tries against the Sigma Lions, I think probably the most impressive thing for the British and Irish Lions was their impregnable defense. You know, it was a really, really impressive effort. And I think, you know, they had that period after they scored their 3rd try, where the Lions were sort of on their 5 meter, and they took a scrum to the Lions, and they were rolling up a lot of phases and stuff like that, and they kept going with their forwards, but it was relentless from the British and Irish Lions, and eventually the Sigma Lions making a pretty ordinary mistake with a bit of obstruction. But I think that was what's so impressive. You know, their tackle success well above the 90% range, and that's sort of the difference between a test match side and a franchise side. If you can have a tackle percentage of sort of 92, 93%, that's how you win games. You know, because that means that you are making almost every single tackle bar 1 or 2. You know, and obviously if you don't make the right tackles, they can still score points. But it goes a long way to trying to beat a side if you can just, you know, stop them in their tracks. And I think that was probably one of the biggest sort of impressive. I think Steve Tanny would have been very, very impressed with the side's effort. You know, not that necessarily it's a phenomenal Sigma Lions side, and I think they probably showed they were quite sort of one-dimensional, I think, in attack in many ways. It probably was easier to defend against them than maybe the Lions of 2-3 years ago, where they had multiple sort of facets to their attack. But they still did put in a very, very big effort in defense, and I think that that's something that's going to have to be crucial when they take on the Springboks, because, you know, Springboks are going to bash it up. They're going to try and bully them, and, you know, if you've got that defense where you can sort of draw a line in the sand and not give an inch, that'll go a long way to beating the world champions. Probably the only sort of area of weakness that we saw on the weekend was I thought the scrums weren't particularly impressed from the British and Irish Lions. You know, when their replacement front row came on, they won, I think, 2 or 3 penalties. But I don't think they had a single, I think maybe one scrum where they were sort of really, really dominant. That first half, the scrums were going nowhere. And that was against a second string Lions front row. You know, Nathan Macbeth, PJ Butt, and Ruan Dre are not the 3 best front rows at the Sigma Lions. This British and Irish Lions are going to be going against the best front row in South Africa, of all South Africans. You know, something like Wilco Low, who started in the Premiership final, he doesn't make the squad because of the quality of the props that Springboks have. And I think that, you know, Rassie Rasmussen, Jacques Nienaber probably would have watched that game and thought, you know what, just as we got that England scrum in the World Cup final, we can get this British and Irish Lions scrum. And if you can win scrum dominance, you know, if you can get a ascendancy from the scrum, that makes life so much easier. You know, there's a big penalties you can win. It's very good for attacking. It's equally good for defending. You know, not being able to get front foot ball off the back of the scrum is what puts a lot of fly halves under pressure and stuff like that. So I think that's probably a big area that the Springboks would have watched this weekend and thought, that's where we can go. That's something that we can actually target. But let me know if you picked up anything else, what your thoughts were on the game itself. Please do smash like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. My name is Steven, and I'll chat to you guys soon.